Let's play a game. I'm hoping this game doesn't make me cry, but we'll find out.
Much better at starting things than finishing them. When she died, she left behind over 300 canvases, not one of them finished. Along with Monroe, who felt pretty unfinished himself.
Okay.
The orphanage allowed him to keep only one painting, and so he chose the Unfinished Swan that had always been his mother's favorite. But that night, he woke up to find the swan had disappeared. So he took his mother's silver paintbrush and followed the footprints into a little door he hadn't seen before.
I'm hitting buttons. Oh! I gotta get over there somehow. This is gonna be a fun game. It's just gonna be me being lost the whole time. I'm just stupid, that's what. That's all. Did I win?
The king was young, arrogant, and amazingly talented. He was convinced no color existed that was good enough for his garden, so he left it white. While he pondered how to create some new colors, his kingdom began attracting settlers, and soon he found himself with bigger problems.
That's the strat. Just as you spin in a circle. Whee!
The king's new subjects were tired of white. They were tired of tripping, of banging their shins, of misplacing their homes. So they started
That does
painting
seem pretty
everything,
problematic.
ruining the king's spotless design.
Can you
In
imagine if you
response,
just
the king
couldn't
outlawed
see anything?
all non-magical brushes and pledged to spend the next month painting shadows for his kingdom.
Okay, here we go. Then it's gonna lock me in, isn't it? Yep. Alright. Whee! The labyrinth.
was designed to be beautiful, and it was. It was not designed to be practical, and it wasn't. Whole
Good.
families got lost for weeks at a time. Mail took months to arrive.
Very
and many
inefficient.
worried a labyrinth of this size was bound to attract dragons.
Dragons?
Eventually, the complaints grew so loud even the king couldn't ignore
My
them.
nose is itchy.
The king was so frustrated with the messy, demanding people of his kingdom that he decided to start over. One morning he painted a boat and set off to find the perfect spot.
He said,
He told
peace!
himself
Fuck
he'd
you
come back
guys.
someday to finish what he had started, but of course, he never did. For the first time in weeks, Monroe felt
Oh,
He felt even better when the wind pushed him close enough to reach the swan. He was feeling so good, in fact, that he forgot all
How
about his
cute.
fear of heights. But when the swan wriggled free and Monroe fell over the side, he remembered almost immediately.
why would you do
Might
that?
have been the end of Monroe, if this were a shorter story. But it isn't, which is why Monroe's troubles were just beginning.
That's a shark. I don't like sharks. How am I
Monroe
supposed to
scrambled
fight
out
a
of the water
shark?
and found himself in a massive city with no sign of the swan or anyone else. Well, except someone's enormous pair of feet. These were attached to a giant who could have been a big help in catching the swan, but unfortunately, here was the laziest giant who had ever lived.
Lazy giant.
And it was his day off.
His day off?
Having
I
celebrated
mean, I guess that
in
makes
his
sense.
usual
Giants
way,
need
he
days
was now
off too.
sleeping it off and quite unable to hear Monroe yelling. While he was looking for a way to wake the giant, Monroe noticed something even better: a floating ship. Before he discovered painting, the king was a potter. He loved the simplicity of a well-spun pot.
A
So when
well-spun
his
pot.
subjects complained that his new city was too austere and that there was nowhere to relieve themselves, the king ignored them. But when they started relieving themselves in his pots, the king hastily built them a sewer system.
Scaffolding. This is gonna go perfectly smooth, right? We're not gonna have any issues here. No siree. Can I not? Could I not jump that? Did I not do it right? Was that not what I was supposed to do? I guess not. No! See? I'm not stupid. I'm just bad at jumping. I guess that was not where I was supposed to go. Good news is I can't die. Although I have to make this jump again. Oh, thank God. Okay, we're not gonna fall all the way down again. Okay. Why are we going side to side on the ladder? God, I'm dumb.
As the city filled up with people, the streets filled up with garbage.
Oh.
In a fury, the king painted over the roads with a canal, which swept away the trash, along with some of the slower children. But the water brought
Fuck
something
them
else,
kids.
a horde of vines, which began covering the city.
Ha! I don't think I want to go in there. I can climb vines. Who would have guessed? A lot of people, probably. That was not what I was expecting. Okay, the palace. How do I manage to not fall out of this tree? Balloon?
Like his nicely trimmed hedge maze, the vines refused to stay where the king wanted them.
Oh.
He ordered his subjects to pull up every vine they saw. But the people were getting tired of the king's endless decrees, so they secretly began watering the vines whenever the king wasn't looking.
I haven't been doing that. Nope, not me. It's a penis! Tell me that's not a penis. It was a firework. I feel like just jumping off the ledge is not necessarily my best idea.
The king hated the sea.
Why did the
and
king
all
hate the
because of his
sea?
very first castle.
Sounds like a lame
It
guy.
was the only one he had ever come close to finishing, and it took him a single day. But then the tide came in and washed it all away.
Oh.
He vowed that someday he'd build a kingdom that would last forever.
Dude got trauma. Okay, we've all been there. I didn't go building a huge ass castle and making like people's lives miserable just because I had trauma.
The vines were slowly burying the king and his city. No matter what he tried, the king couldn't stop them. So he decided to create something that could. He mixed in paint thinner, malice, and snot, and soon had the outlines of a pretty horrible creature. But it wasn't until the thing began to coil its tentacles and snap its jaws that the king understood what he had made. And for the first time in his life, the king was afraid.
Normal kid climbing abilities. This makes total sense. I would not fall one bit. No shot. Oh.
Even half finished, the creature had no trouble swallowing up all the king's soldiers, half his zoo, and 3
Only half?
gazebos. It was only with the help of his pet hippo and the giant that the king was able to force it into the sea. And though the water remained black for years after, the creature was never seen again on shore. Monroe waved goodbye to the giant and set sail.
Goodbye,
But no
giant!
matter how fast he went, the swan was always just out of reach. And not for the first time that day, Monroe suspected he was being led somewhere.
Oh,
Then they flew
that's
into a
not
cloud,
creepy.
and everything went black. Monroe sailed on in darkness, following the swan's
I gotta get all the
but
balloons.
he never saw a thing. Not the stars, not the swan, and certainly not the tree he got stuck in.
Oh, we're stuck in a tree.
When the clouds lifted, the swan was gone, leaving Monroe alone in the middle of an immense forest.
Forests
Since there
are
was
cool.
nothing else to be done, he jumped.
I'm sorry, his solution was to jump. Creepy spiders, but you know, that's fine. Wait! The spider's attacking me! Oh my god, I'm gonna die! I don't know where we're going, but we're following the ball. Let's go into the creepy, scary tunnel. Yep, that seems like a good time. Oh god, my heart is like
Creating perfect
pounding.
kingdoms only to attract less than perfect subjects. He decided he'd have to leave a legacy the old-fashioned way, with a family. So he began to build one, starting with a house.
This doesn't seem like a very family-friendly neighborhood.
The king had never had much luck with people, so instead of trying to find a wife, he painted one.
Of
When
course.
she opened her eyes, the king was astonished. He had created a female version of himself. The king was in love. Bursting with joy, the king locked himself in his workshop painting gifts for
It's
his
a
queen.
fun
He
game.
never saw her lack of interest, though she made no effort to hide it. The only gift she kept was his first, a little silver paintbrush. Every day the king painted a new room for the house, and every day he abandoned it as not good enough for his queen. While he slept, the queen spent her nights painting creatures of the forest, though she never finished a single one. 5 months went by.
Bitch, were you
before
drawing
the king
creepy
noticed
spiders?
she was pregnant. On the night before the queen was to give birth, she left. All she took was a single unfinished painting. When the king woke, he found no explanation, and he never did.
Maybe because he didn't pay any attention to her. It just a guess. Is the king still here? Wait, am I the king's son? Am I the king's son?
9 years, the king didn't paint a thing. Then he had a vision.
Why
A
do people
colossal
think that
monument of
big
himself that would be his legacy
big
for
statues of
ages.
themselves
But he hadn't even
are a
finished
legacy?
painting the scale model, which was over 100 feet tall itself, when his powers began to fail. The king never finished another painting. Then one night he went to sleep and couldn't even finish his own dream, and he's been trapped inside it ever since.
It's the king!
As Monroe stood there trying to think of something to say, the statue shuddered and the hatch slammed shut. And now there was no more need for talking. The king was awake.
Come, sit here by the fire.
The hippo talks.
It all began right there, in the house I grew up in. I heard a heavy knocking at the door, just like on the night I left. I opened the door, but there was nothing there, just white space.
Are we back in the garden?
When I got outside, disaster. Some miscreant had painted everything. My garden was ruined. And then my statue spoke and said, "Help me! Some little hooligan is running around splattering everything in the garden. I think he's headed for
It's me.
Something got in my mouth." I saw my unfinished labyrinth, abandoned and forgotten.
This is
And the
cool.
credits appeared.
Your dreams have credits?
Oh yes, and subtitles. And then I saw my beautiful city strangled by those disgusting vines. I built it to stand 100 lifetimes, and instead it'll be buried in one, a monument for weeds. The dining hall was full of people, like the old days. It smelled like roasted goose. For a moment,
Oh.
I was happy. Then suddenly, I was alone again. The world had become cold and dark. I floated past chunks of the house I built, or started building. Scarcely 10 years later, and the whole thing was in ruins. My works were meant to last forever, but most of them will be gone before I am. I was
What?
at a funeral. My own, as it turned out. No one was there. Except you. I saw my monument, my last hope of leaving something that would live on after me, and I began to walk towards it.
Teenagers don't get this big.
Push, my monument crumbled and sank. I saw my life's work laid out in front of me. Soon it would crumble into dust or be painted over by someone who would come after me, the same way I painted over what was here before me.
That's kinda deep.
When the universe ended, I knew that everything I'd made was over. And as I sat there, looking out into the darkness, I thought back on all the things I'd built and left unfinished.
Like your
I
son?
realized something. I wasn't sad that it was all gone. I had fun making all that stuff. I would have done it anyway. And then, somehow I knew that when I woke up, all my work really would be destroyed. And that's when you showed up. I don't know how you got here, but I'm glad to see you. I have something for you. This brush isn't mine anymore. My work is over. It
Thanks,
belongs
Dad.
to you now. I hope it makes you happy, and that someday they will say, he is a better man than his father. That door will take you anywhere you want to go, but leave quickly, child. None of this will last for long.
And that night, even though he was very tired, Monroe did something that would have made his mother very happy. He painted.
The king was indeed my dad. He said some very philosophical things, and then he gave me a paintbrush and said, I hope that you become a better man than your father was.